If you are uncertain how you can best prepare for a presentation, doesn't matter where it is or who's going to be in the audience, if you're uncertain about that, I have some essentials I want to share with you today. These are things that you can do without having an expert level or an advanced level of presentation skills, but things that you can do to definitely enhance your presentation that you deliver. We'll be right back after the intro. Well, happy Tuesday, family. If you are watching this, today's episode is recorded. We're not live this Tuesday, but we will interchangeably do episodes live and both pre recorded. So, if you have not yet met me, my name is Lenita Hostin. I am the founder of Vocal Value. We are a training and development consultancy that focuses on helping organizational leaders increase their influence and their impact by way of their communication skills. And for the past 10 years, I have been developing, nurturing, and teaching communication skills across the country. Today, I wanted to share with you some essentials. Ooh, I'm tongue twisted today. Today, I wanted to share with you some essentials to preparing best for your presentation. I'm going to share with you three. And I think these are things that you can easily try or implement when you're considering your presentation material. So we're going to start there. Before I jump into that, if you do not already know, I am hosting a in-person public speaking class called Stage Power Intensive. It's for executives and organizational leaders. And this is what we're going to be doing in this class really briefly. We're going to be teaching, practicing, and call them mirroring, I can never say that word, body language techniques. So teaching you how to manage your body language, which includes fidgeting, anxiousness, feelings of the hands, tapping, shifting, all of those things. We're also going to talk about or touch on identifying that nervous energy that shows up in your body when it's time for you to present in front of a large group or a small group. And then practical things you can do to help, we call not alleviate the nervousness, but definitely respond to it so that it does not impact your presentation. We also are going to go over ways to increase your articulation and pronunciation. We're going to do that by way of exercises. Then we'll talk about a little bit about formulating brief remarks, the key elements to make your remarks both memorable and impactful, no matter who you're speaking with. And then lastly, I mentioned this on social media, but we have a segment of time where our guests are simply just practicing. They're practicing the materials and the strategies they were teaching them. They're going to record themselves. We'll have tripod stations. So I'm super excited about Stage Power Intensive. If you have never taken a public speaking class, but you often speak at high visibility events, you're often the face. Maybe you don't feel as confident in your public speaking skills and you'd like to increase your confidence. This is a great place to come and do that. I want to also say Stage Power Intensive is a safe space as well. This space is curated very intentionally to make sure people are comfortable coming forward, speaking, and peers are equally giving constructive feedback. So I'm really excited about that. This is one of my babies for the year. All right. I released this video early last week and I want you to check it out. Hear me out. This one is good. Telltale signs that you are a novice presenter. Woo! You test equipment during the actual presentation time. Yikes! When you are well crafted in speaking, you test your equipment before people are in the environment. You never want to win back someone's attention. You want to retain it. Number two. So I won't go over all of that content, but that's actually one of the steps that I wanted to share with you today. It's an essential when preparing is that whatever equipment you plan to use, you're familiar with it. So if you're speaking in the boardroom, if you're speaking in the conference room, you need to go to that space and upload your presentation, play it in presentation mode. If you have a clicker or they have a clicker, get accustomed to your fingers navigating that device. If you're going to be walking around the room, practice walking the room down the aisles in between the seats. If you're going to be using a lavalier mic or a handheld mic, practice using the microphone. So I would practice at your normal volume, practice holding it, get accustomed to hearing yourself through the speakers to see how much you have to project. Does the microphone or the mic require you to be on the mic like this? So just getting very familiar, because once people are in this space, that is not the time to test equipment. It's game time. It's almost like an athlete showing up for game time, like it's time to go, like the clock has started and they haven't put on their uniform or their shoes. So part of our uniform and our shoes are knowing the equipment that's going to be in the room and getting familiar with it. So that's the first essential. The second one is I really want us to get in the habit of outlining our remarks. I know this sounds very, very elementary, but when you write your ideas on paper, they give you or generate more ideas. So write out, how are you going to start? Is it going to be a story? What story? Is it the tricycle story? Is it the second week on the job story? How are you coming out of that story? Maybe you write a brief use image of tricycle. What are going to be the main point? What's going to be the main point or points that you share? What are those? ... And then how are you transitioning out of each of those main points? That brings us to the conclusion. How are you wrapping up? And maybe you're not using that. Maybe you start with the cause and then an effect, then what people can do, and the call to action that you have for them. But writing it out is going to help you get best prepared in front of an audience. I always say this, the brain wants to be lazy. It's why you can drive to work and not really think about where you're going. You're thinking about so many other things, but you are driving to work. Your mind has memorized your commute by way of muscle memory. The brain, it loves to do that. It's a very comfortable place. Writing out things allows you, especially if you do it in advance, you're allowing your time, I would say your mind to digest the information. And the more you review it, read it, look over it, it can become a form of memorization. You want to free up your thinking capacity when you're presenting so that you can focus on the audience, on their body language, how they're responding, answering their questions. So the more of your material that you have, I don't want to say memorize, but I want to say familiarize. The more of your material that you are familiar with, you're going to find that it's going to be much easier to think of the audience so that you're not presenting and only thinking of yourself. Meaning thinking of yourself would be, am I making sense? Did I say that correctly? Did I miss anything? Those are thoughts that we eliminate when we provide an outline and we somewhat stick to it. So I mentioned the first essential is definitely testing your equipment based on the space that you're going to be in. And I didn't mention this. If it's a virtual event, you can test equipment before your room opens up for your event. If it's in person, try your best to go into that space. If it's out of state or kind of far, just arrive an hour early. That's typically my measure, an hour early. If I'm speaking a part of a longer, let's say something else is happening before me, and arriving an hour early would mean I'd be arriving at the start. I would be arriving mid-event, so I wouldn't be able to test equipment because things are happening leading up to me. Then I'd ask the event facilitator, what is your start time so that I can come and test? Sometimes I have to do that, go and test, and then leave and come back. But I would rather do that than get into a space and not know how things function, not having touched it on my own or manipulated it in my own way. So definitely you want to test your sound. You want to do an outline of your remarks. And here's the third one. I want you to prepare to receive feedback. And this is going to look different for everyone. Not everybody is going to prepare to receive feedback in the same way. So sometimes this looks like a survey. Sometimes this looks like a QR code that's leading to maybe some type of Google form, SurveyMonkey form. Maybe it might be a live survey using Mentimeter, but you always want to record the data about your effectiveness, the relevancy of your content, the competency of you as a presenter, and what were the key learning takeaways. Every time you present, you should be collecting data. If you are in a workplace environment and you want to apply this principle, and maybe the relevancy piece is a no-brainer because you're presenting workplace material, your competency as a speaker is still something you want to definitely evaluate. And also the effectiveness of how the information was presented, you definitely want to evaluate that. This is how you're going to polish your presentation skills, by getting that feedback. So part of this is making sure you have enough time to add this in. So sometimes you have to not condense, but just be cognizant about the amount of content that you have, because you could have too much content that would not leave you or allow you time to get the feedback. You should always get the feedback, unless there are some instances where this is a little bit challenging, like a graduation speech or an inspirational keynote message where ending on a feedback note would not be appropriate. In those areas, that's not an appropriate way. But there's some creative ways you can get feedback, not at the end, but during your presentation too. If you're using an interactive tool like Mentimeter, you can ask the audience, is this resonating with you? Or you can say, before you ask them that question, you can say, pull out your mobile device. I have a few questions I want to ask you, and I want your honest opinion. Halfway through your material, you can say, is this resonating with you? And let them respond. The only thing about this is, I hope you're resonating with them, because if not, this would not go over well. But it's a great way to gauge your effectiveness as a presenter. We can only improve something that we measure. And so how are you collecting data to improve your presentation skills? I really want to put the onus on you for that. So those are my 3 essential ways to prepare for your presentation. Definitely get in that room, test the equipment. If it's virtual, test it virtually. Prepare your material with an outline. And then finally, I want you to also prepare to receive feedback. Always be prepared to receive feedback, and get creative on regarding what that looks like for you. Doesn't have to look like everyone else. I use a tool called Talkadot. If you're interested, you can type in the comments. Please share more. Talkadot is a survey tool that collects data about my audience's experience, and then I share that with the client at the end of my presentation talk. This is typically a keynote, however, so it doesn't quite apply in some instances. But in the past, I have used text. What is it called? Basically, I give the audience a number to text, and when they text me back, it gives them a survey. I've used a QR code that leads to SurveyMonkey. Those are some examples. But I'm sure if you check out a YouTube channel and type in ways to collect surveys when presenting, oh, you know what? That would be a great podcast episode. So maybe I'll do it on my own. I'll take a note of it for April, and we can add that in. If you are here to the end, I want to remind you, Stage Power Intensive early bird registration tickets in Friday, March 27th. I had to think about that. I would love to have you at the early bird rate. Again, this is a full day interactive public speaking class for organizational leaders. You can lead at a church, at a community organization, at a national convention. You can be a part of a national Greek association, or you can be a workplace executive. You can also be a CEO of your own organization, or a COO, CFO, CMO. I'm looking for those who are in leadership, essentially. You spend a lot of time in front of people, and I love to help you polish your public speaking skills. So you can learn more about Stage Power Intensive at stagepowerintensive.com. And I cannot wait to serve you. I'm really excited about that class. I am. And we're going to be doing these classes quarterly. All right, folks, that's all I have for today. Thank you again for joining today's podcast. My name is Lanita Hostin. I am your podcast host, and I'll see you next week. And we have a special guest. Bye now.